And so she was telling me on Saturday she came to eat
Yeah.
with Bob and everyone. Yeah, so she was telling that. So I said, "Oh, really?" I said, "Yeah." So if you wanna flick the message around to see how she's doing, or
Yeah. I mean, once again, just have to promote, more natural life is good for the immune system.
yeah,
Fresh air, pure water,
in the
natural
city
sunlight,
is very in farms is easy, but the
organic
city
food.
hard to get the fresh
I
air
know,
and
but
water.
this is why our immune system is compromised in so many other aspects of our health, and the mind also is affected because of the unnatural way that we live, and then the immune system and so forth is really struggling. And then we're putting toxic things in the body, and then that the immune system
All the vegetables are pesticides.
collapses. Yeah. So it's very unfortunate, and we see even a young boy, like that, whatever teenage or early 20s, shouldn't be having these kind of problems, but the fact that they are means there's serious problems in the body's relationship with the environment and the food and everything around us, and relationships and that. So so something needs to be done. We need to work on it, if not, collectively coming from the higher authorities, governments and so forth, but at least individuals, if we value our health and so forth, we should do something serious to try to protect our physical, mental and spiritual well-being. And it's very important. And Josh has joined us. Welcome.
G'day. Hello.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
I received your wonderful book today in the mail.
Very good.
Yeah, we're gonna get into this. It's definitely on our list of books to read.
Hopefully you will think of me less of a rascal and not more of a rascal. I don't know.
Well, you've got all the Hare Krishna jargon, even in the word rascal is.
I get called a rascal. There's this guy. I'm sure that you guys must know who he is, but he's an older guy, right? He's got the Hare Krishna, the hairstyle, and he walks along the beach. And I think he lives up at the farm, or he spends a lot of time up.
And he's pretty much deaf.
Yes.
Amrita Das.
Yeah, that's Amrita Nanda, or Amrita for short.
Beautiful.
So yeah, he's a character.
For years and years, we've had this thing where maybe just once a year he'll be walking along the beach while I'm doing yoga on the beach. Yeah. And he sees me doing all the advanced asana, and he assumes that I don't know anything about anything other than asana. And so he comes up and has a go at me and says, and he starts rattling off the Vedas and the quotes and stuff. And he always is shocked when I can say something back to him,
Okay.
He never quite remembers, and he's his line, I'm sure you guys have heard this too, when he talks about how deaf he is, he says, but don't worry, I'm going to get some new ears soon. And you go, oh, really? New ears? He goes, yeah, because I'm going to get a new body. Going to be reincarnated.
Yeah. No, he is the character.
He was the one that called me a rascal anyway.
Oh, okay. Yeah, you've got to just treat whatever he says with a, what do you call it, a grain of salt.
Right. Yeah, he's a good bloke. He's a good guy.
Yeah, I mean, he means well, but he can be a bit full on, and unfortunately the conversations with him is a one-way conversation because he can't hear.
Yeah.
He likes talking and he can't hear anything. So
it's good. At the beach, it's good because you can yell at the beach. So I just yell at him. We have these really, really loud conversations. So people who are probably observing us think we're probably arguing something.
I wish we could record that and put it on the. I really want to hear that.
Good times.
Yeah. Anyway, that reminds me, one great sage, Chanakya, in the history of India, one of the very intelligent proverbs that he came up with is, someone that's highly advanced in consciousness should take the good out of any situation, even it might be not a very mode of goodness or desirable situation, but we should try to find something good there. And he said, even find gold in a dirty place. Even one should learn that art of you can find gold, means something valuable in a gold in a dirty place. Normally you wouldn't expect to find gold just lying in a rubbish pile or whatever like that, but something valuable. But like that, even in not very good situations, or like dealing with someone that's maybe not behaving very well, but finding something good that you can learn from them, like finding out the word rascal.
Well, but this is beautiful. Like, and the measure of a measure of our success is our ability to quickly and also automatically do that. Find the good. Remember that this is all Krishna's work, and therefore there is good in it, and to be able to see it properly, including what you guys were talking about when I joined the call, which was like pesticides in the food and all this sort of stuff. We've got to find the good in that too, right?
Yeah, I mean, this came up because Gulshan just mentioned that one of Deepa's children, young lad, has got some immunity problem and is in hospital. So I was just expressing that, it's so unfortunate that even someone so young is going through these kind of things. It shouldn't be happening. But yeah, we should learn the lesson, that sometimes that can be very valuable. We go off track and we can learn something from that through the difficulties we go through, and that can maybe help us come back on track. Can be a blessing in disguise. So like they say, every cloud has a silver lining, right? So as long as we can see that. Often people only come to spiritual life actually when they're put into some kind of traumatic situation or distressful situation, and that was what led to some enlightenment, some revelation or some deep reflection or some sincere feelings in the heart, and that's pretty much universal, that for all of us, that there was some difficulty had to come by in our life, some pressure, right? Oh, there's an example given about that pressure. Do you know how diamonds, very beautiful, right? How they're formed? Does anyone know how diamonds
are formed? Under pressure, isn't it? Under pressure?
Yeah, it's actually they're like coal deposits. I think I remember.
Yeah.
They're like coal, and then it's when that coal is under immense pressure from so much weight. Forces around that coal, that being pressurized, that coal transforms into a diamond. And that's how the diamonds are formed. They'll be breaking up the coal, and then within that lump of coal there'll be a diamond there. So that's the same with us too. To manifest our beautiful spiritual nature, we need to be put a bit into a pressurized situation to help bring that out. Because it's
another
there.
example. Another example is that you hear sometimes a shell that grows, like a baby shellfish. They get so uncomfortable in their shells that they feel the pressure of being in there. They can't handle it anymore, and they get out of their shells. And then the new bigger shell grows. They can live in.
Okay, I haven't heard that before. Okay, that's interesting.
Yeah, they abandoned their old shells because it was too painful to be inside them.
Yes. But just distress on its own may not be too helpful, but it puts us in a right frame of mind where if we get good association, this is especially the thing that helps us to make skyrocket advancement in spiritual life. If in that humble state of mind brought about by some kind of distress, physical or mental or whatever distress, then we become a bit humble. Our pride, our false ego gets brought down by that distress, and we become a bit humble. And in that situation, if we have the good fortune to have some good association from some spiritually minded persons, who we call in Sanskrit sadhus, or saintly people like that, then we can be receptive. We can be more receptive in that state of mind to hear from them, and that's the essence of how we can progress, is by hearing the Shabda Brahma, the spiritual sound vibrations can awaken the bhakti and transcendental knowledge in our hearts. So that's the beginning of our good fortune. But unfortunately, when we're enjoying life and everything like that and think we're on the top of the world, then we don't usually like to hear from enlightened beings. Okay, so let's continue. So 6th chapter, text number 5. Udredatmanatmanam
Udredatmanam
natmanam avasadayet
Natmana Namavasadame
atmaiva hyatmano bandhur
Atmanaiva Hyasmo Bandhu
atmaiva rupuratmana.
Ratmaiva Ripuratmana.
We'll do it once again. Udaredatmanatmanam
Udredatmananam
natmanam avasadayet
Natmanam Vasadete
atmaiva hyatmano bandhur
Atmaiva Hyatmo Bandhu
atmaiva ruparatmana.
Atmairipuratmana.
Does anyone notice anything unusual about this verse?
Hard to read.
Is that unusual? Is it?
Of course, yeah. Some words I can read, but this one has got too many words in one. Because when they put the line on the top, it means there's one word, and you see it in 3, 4. Anyway, I'm not a Sanskrit scholar.
Oh, that's okay. Don't be a Sanskrit scholar. Did you notice how many times the word Atma is there in this verse?
So many times. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 times.
That's phenomenal, isn't it? 7 times the word Atma in this verse. So, do you know what the word Atma means?
Soul.
Generally, yes. Generally, yes, but not always. And as Prabhupada's going to begin the purport, the word Atma denotes body, mind, and soul, depending on different circumstances. So it can refer to the body or the mind or the soul. So in this situation, what does the word Atma refer to? Is it the body or the mind or the soul?
It'd be the mind.
Yes, because that's the subject being discussed.
Jnana Yoga, yeah.
This is the context, is about the mind. So Atma here refers to the mind. Bhakti Mala, would you like to read the translation, please?
One must deliver himself with the help of his mind and not degrade himself. The mind is the friend of the conditioned soul and his enemy as well.
Okay. So we have one mind. Within this gross physical body, there is a subtle body. What is a subtle body made of?
And water, air, ether.
No, that's the gross body. Yep.
Gross body, okay.
Yep, gross body. Earth, water, air, fire, and space. Yeah, 5 elements. And I'll give you a clue. The subtle body is made of 3 elements.
Mind, body, soul.
Mind, no. Mind, yes, mind is one of the 3. What are the 3 elements of the subtle body? The physical body is a gross body, means you can see it, you can touch it, so forth. But within this gross physical body, there is a subtle physical body. Also, I mean,
I know in Hindi, but I don't know in English.
Okay. Mind, intelligence, and false ego.
False ego. Man, chit, ahankar.
Yeah. That's what the subtle body is made up of. And it's also material. The mind is not spiritual as such, but material, but subtle matter. So there's gross matter that you can see and so forth, and then there's subtle matter that you can't see it, but it's there. And we all know we have a mind, but you can't see it, you can't touch it, but you know it's there.
Sorry, Abhay. Mind, and what is it? Mind?
Intelligence.
Intelligence, got it.
Yes, and false ego. Ahankara. So we have one mind, but here we can understand that that mind can either be our friend or it can be our enemy. So in which cases would you say the mind becomes our friend, and in which cases the mind becomes our enemy?
When you are in the ahankara, like ego, then it mind's the enemy then.
Yeah, if the mind becomes under the influence of the false ego,
then it's the enemy.
False ego is that ego means self, but false ego means false self. So what is the false self? What is the false self? False identification of I, of who I am. What is the false I?
You're not this body, you are the soul.
That's the real ego. That's the true ego, that I am the soul. So what's the false ego?
A false ego is I can do this, like.
Yeah, I am the body, and then I can control, everything around me, and everything like that is for my enjoyment.
I did this one, I did that.
It's for my enjoyment and everything. So that's the false ego. So when the mind gets under the influence of the false ego, thinking I am this body and everything related to this body is mine. This is my house and my car and my money and my family, and this material world is set up for my enjoyment and everything like that, then that's all false ego. And when the mind becomes in cahoots with the false ego, then the mind is always thinking about these things, is always thinking about enjoying sense gratification. Then at that point, the mind becomes our enemy. The mind is what keeps us in the material world, keeps the soul in the material world, is the mind, which is absorbed in sense gratification and trying to enjoy through the senses. So in which case does the mind become our friend?
I would think when we turn our thoughts to Krishna, when we If we use the mind, because what does the mind do? It's thinking, right? Thoughts are going on, it's thinking and feeling. All the feelings, emotions are going on in the mind. And then willing. Willing is when, at the point of willing, when the mind wills something, then at that point it comes into action. Then you actually do it with your body. You engage in those activities that you've been thinking about. When your thoughts are very strongly determined for something, then it comes to the point where you, well, yes, I want this. I'm going to have this, like that, and then it comes into action. So thinking, feeling, and willing. So these are the functions, 3 functions of the mind. So if that thinking, feeling, and willing is in relationship with the Supreme, with Krishna, then that's your ticket out of here. If you're thinking about the Supreme and all your emotions, your feelings are in relationship, you're feeling love. Like love is an emotion, right? This is part of the mind. It's emotions, that feeling of love.
So if you develop love for the Supreme, love for Krishna, then that's your ticket out of here. You're going back to the spiritual world. You're going to get kaivalya. You're going to be liberated. You're going to be liberated from the material world. So yeah, it can either be our best friend or our worst enemy. Okay, so let's read the purport. Okay, Bob, do you want to start it off?
The word Atma denotes body, mind and soul, depending upon different circumstances. In the yoga system, the mind and the conditioned soul are especially important, since the mind is the central point of yoga practice. Atma refers here to the mind. The purpose of the yoga system is to control the mind and to draw it away from the attachment to sense objects. Do you want me to keep going?
I know we can stop there because there's definitely things to discuss here. Because in the previous verse, it was said, a person is said to be elevated in yoga, having renounced all material desires. He neither acts for sense gratification nor engages in fruitive activities. So that's normally what's going on in the material world, that everyone is mad after pleasing the body, which is made up of senses. So we call that process of trying to enjoy the body sense gratification. So everyone's mad after trying to gratify their senses, their tongue and their belly, genitals and eyes and so forth. And to be able to enjoy the body, we need some objects to enjoy, right? Senses need objects for enjoyment. Like the tongue is a sense. What object does the tongue need to enjoy? Can a tongue enjoy by itself?
No, taste.
Yeah, you have to taste something. If there's nothing to taste, how's the tongue going to enjoy? So you need some object that has some taste. So therefore we run after some tasty foods at some fast food place, takeaway place or whatever like that, and the McDonald's or so forth, trying to get some tasty object for the tongue. And of course the liquor shop and so forth, and smoking cigarettes. See, all these things like intoxication. Why is that there? Intoxication, because the tongue is greedy for enjoyment. Tongue is greedy for enjoyment. So putting something on the tongue like that, some kind of intoxicant, some kind of wine or beer or something like that. And recently there's been a massive police operation all over the world, and they've caught, a huge number of criminals involved with drugs. And it was a big operation and included New Zealand and Australia, America, and so many countries. And I don't want to go into the details, but just why that's there. So much intoxication and so forth. It's all because of the tongue. The tongue is wanting to enjoy. And then the smoking cigarettes, why putting that? We've got one guy locally, he's trying to get off cigarettes. So he's got this this kind of man-made thing you put in the mouth, and it produces some smoke and stuff like that. Vapor. Yeah, like that. So because he's trying to get away from that habit, but it's all about the tongue. The tongue wants some gratification. So if you don't put the real cigarette in, you have to put the fake cigarette in, or something like that, because the tongue wants some enjoyment. So this is the situation in the material world, that we're trying to enjoy through the senses, and we're having to work very hard to produce some objects for the senses to enjoy. We have to get money, right? So that we can get food for the tongue. Also, we have to get money so that we can attract some opposite sex to enjoy the genitals with, or some food to fill up the belly, or some money to watch some movies to enjoy with the eyes, or some disco to enjoy the ears and the legs from dancing and so forth like that. So the senses are wanting gratification, and we're very busy in activities. Like everyone is very busy. If you ask people how you're doing and say, oh, I'm very busy. But the thing is, what are they busy in? They're busy in activities for the purpose of gratifying the senses normally. And the
what should I say that in the bhakti tree when the people say, how you doing? I should say, I'm okay. I mean,
well, you can say you're busy also, but see, the transcendentalist is also busy, but they're busy to trying to gratify the senses of the Supreme Being, of Krishna. You know, we're also trying to gratify senses, but not our own personal senses, but the senses of the Supreme. But then, of course, people ask, but then if you do everything for the senses of the Supreme, then what about your own senses or your own body? How will you be able to maintain your own body if you're not trying to gratify that? So then how does that work?
Well, we maintain our own body, but center of attention is Krishna. We have to maintain the body in order to serving the bhakti tree. But depend on the person you're talking to. Sometimes the level is not understanding the same level you're talking, and then I don't talk.
Yeah. Well, you know, the example that's used in the Vedas, if you water the root of the tree, then what effect does that have?
The whole tree nourishes.
Yeah, so the Supreme is like the root. We're like the leaves and the fruits and the flowers and everything. So automatically our needs get sorted out. Or if you put food in the stomach, that's the other example. You just put food in one place in the stomach, and automatically goes to all your fingers and your toes and your head and your ears and everything. You don't have to stick food in your ears. Does anyone stick food in their ears or in your eyes or up your nose?
I tried, but didn't work.
Or up your backside or anything like that? No, you just got to stick food in one place, and the mouth goes to the belly. And then once the belly has the food, then it goes everywhere. So it's the same. That's a basic principle of Krishna consciousness, that you just try to satisfy the senses of the Supreme, and because he's Advaita, he's absolute, he's everything, then he's the source of everything, Aham Sarvasya Prabhavo. Then you've given that object to the source, then it gets distributed to all the parts and parcels. So that's a fundamental principle of Krishna consciousness, how it works. And we see that it works when we dedicate ourselves spiritually. Then we become fully satisfied. I mean, even Josh could probably say something about even yogis, right? That there's yogis that they just live off air. They don't even eat anything. So how are they surviving?
Well,
it's mystical, isn't it? It's mystical. It's mystical. But there are. I mean, of course.
Sunshine.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. All material world, is from the same chemical building blocks, but as we know as well, they're from the even more than just chemical building blocks. They're from the same metaphysical building block, which is Krishna. And so, any material thing can be turned into another material thing. So, no real reason other than tradition and beliefs and the rules around this material existence that dictate that we have to have this or that, in our gut to survive.
So if the Supreme is satisfied by our service, then and we're not thinking about ourselves anymore, because that's it. Even like if you we're looking at Ashtanga Yoga, so we can use the Ashtanga Yoga terms. So even if we reach the advanced level of the Ashtanga Yoga system into the point of like dhyan, means like intense meditation, and then samadhi, absorption like that on one point on the Supreme, then, and you're not thinking about yourself anymore, you're just absorbed in that meditative trance on the Supreme, your mind is fixed on the Supreme, then, and you're not thinking about yourself anymore, but You're thinking about the Supreme, and then what's the Supreme thinking about?
You.
Yeah, and that's, is there anything more than that? And that's love, and that's bhakti. Then you're thinking about the Supreme, and then, well, what's going to look after you if you're thinking about someone else? You're not thinking about yourself anymore. Well, the Supreme is thinking about you, and then what's more better than that? And that's perfection. And if you've got the Supreme Being looking after you, and He can look after you like just through the air, or through water or whatever, or just sunshine or whatever, and you just feel satisfied. And I even know from Krishna book and from the 10th canto Srimad Bhagavatam, where like, for example, Krishna left Vrindavan and he went to Mathura to kill Kamsa and so forth. And when he left, then all of his devotees, like Nanda and Yashoda and all the gopis, cowherd girls, everything, felt so much separation from Krishna, they didn't eat. Normally, if you don't eat, what's going to happen?
Well, you don't last too
long. You'll
die.
You'll die. But did they die?
No.
But they weren't eating. So how can on one side you don't die and the other side you don't eat?
I'm thinking they've lived off the love of Krishna.
Yeah, they were in love with Krishna.
Krishna.
And Krishna was looking after them. The same when Lord Chaitanya, 500 years ago, that was 5,000 years ago, Krishna was present, 500 years ago. Then Lord Chaitanya took sannyas. Lord Chaitanya took sannyas and he left Mayapur, Navadvip, and he went to Jagannath Puri. And once again, his mother, Sachimata, and all the devotees, everything felt so much separation, they didn't want to eat. They were just thinking about him in complete samadhi, thinking about him, and they just didn't care about their bodies anymore. They didn't even bother to eat. And did they die? No. 1 month went by, and Mother Sachi didn't eat anything, but she didn't lose any weight. She didn't lose any weight, had no problems whatsoever, and just didn't eat a thing. It's just because the Lord himself was looking after her. And that's wonderful. That's wonderful. Where that intense, loving relationship is there.
You're not telling us to stop eating for a month, Abhay?
No, I'm not telling you to do that. But it's just a point on the principle that if we just try to please the senses of the Supreme, then our senses automatically get taken care of. And talking about eating, just like we offer food to Krishna, and he very kindly leaves it for us to eat. So, but it's more better after being offered to him, the prasadam, what's left, is more better than what it was before we gave it to him. And we know that because it tastes better, doesn't it?
Of course.
So does your
tongue... more satisfied, like when you eat the prasadam, you're satisfied.
Yeah. We've just done catering 3 days this week to some local people, and boy, they are going off on the food, on the prasadam. They just love it so much. So they're so enjoying it so much, and I was sitting outside actually, and Jayanti was distributing the prasadam inside, and I heard 2 Maori ladies walking by. They said, "Oh, they're serving out Hare Krishna food." And I heard them talk. They didn't know I was there. And and their food is like kind of blessed, it's like blessed food. They said that. And they were really glorifying it, and they were really they obviously enjoyed it so much. And this one person was telling someone that hadn't had it before, and she was just like praising it like anything. So even without any knowledge, people, they don't know anything about what is prasadam or anything, Krishna or anything, but they know the food tastes better. It tastes a lot better, and that's very tangible. And so that's this principle. If you
if you just try to please the Supreme, please his senses, then our senses become even more happy than if we just try to please our own senses. Does everyone agree?
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
That's why I tell in the Bhakti tree when the people come there, I say, well, you can get the food at any restaurant, but here it's a prasadam. So that's why, oh, okay, that's why it's so tasty. I say, yes. Food you can get any restaurant. Indian restaurant, you can get the food. But the food and prasadam is the difference.
And when we're chanting Hare Krishna, you know, we're forgetting about ourselves and we're just trying to glorify him, glorify his names. And we become so happy, isn't it? We become so happy. Just through chanting his names or hearing about him, then we become so happy. So it's simultaneously is happening that we try to please him and we're automatically pleased at the same time. So in regards to that, so that's the main principle of materialistic life, that I am the body and my aim in life is to try to please the senses of the body, to try to gratify the body. And to do that, we have to work very hard to get things for the body to enjoy. Sex, drugs, and rock and roll, right? This is the eat, drink, and be merry, isn't it? This is the hedonistic philosophy. Yeah. Eat, drink, and be merry. Sex, drugs, and rock and roll. This is what I was brought up with, these sayings. That was the aim of life. And so it's basically sense gratification, and you need to work very hard, run around to try to get all these things for the body to enjoy. However, through doing that is the cause of our suffering. So therefore, an intelligent person, who we call a yogi, tries to detach himself, and that's what it said in the previous verse, renouncing all these desires for sense gratification and fruitive activities. So why does an intelligent person want to give these up? We've looked at that before. Because it leads to suffering. It leads to misery, leads to suffering. Everything based around this body leads to suffering. And people can realize that, and I hopefully realize that more now with this big COVID pandemic, right? That we realize this body is causing so much suffering, you know, so many diseases like this COVID virus. This tiny disease, tiny virus, you can't even see it. It's so small. It's so small the virus actually penetrates into the cell of the body. It can fit inside the cell of the body. And there it takes over that cell, corrupts that cell. It's so minute it can even go into the cell of the body. And it's caused havoc all over the world like that. So, and people are put into so many miserable situations due to this body. So one who is intelligent tries to get free from this bodily entanglement. And therefore we try to detach ourselves from the body and sense gratification and find out what's beyond that, what's more than that. And to be able to do that, we have to control the mind, because the mind is so mad after material enjoyment. So the first thing we want to do if we want to detach ourselves from sense gratification is we have to try to control the mind. Otherwise, it's not going to be possible to make progress. So therefore, it's a central point, whether it's bhakti yoga or Astanga yoga or any kind of yoga, jnana yoga, that we have to control the mind. Because as long as the mind is mad after material enjoyment, then we can't detach ourselves, we can't progress. So detachment is very important. And to do that, we have to control the mind. We have to, which is saying here, control the mind and draw it away from attachment to sense objects. So that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to draw the mind away from sense objects, because we're so engaged with the sense objects is causing us so much suffering. So we try to take the mind away, like this man I was telling about with the smoking the cigarettes is causing him suffering in terms of his health and so forth, and is costing him so much money, of course, down the drain. And so he's trying to take the mind away from that, and he's using this vapor to do that. Of course, it's maybe not very successful process, but that's the principle. We try to take the mind away from the sense objects.
Can sense objects can be relationships or anything like that, though, as well.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
Anything, any sort of material.
But the relationship is that I'm thinking I'm the body, and I'm thinking the other person is just the body.
Mm.
And we're thinking that this other body will give pleasure to my body.
Mm.
And we present it in the way that, I love you, and all that kind of stuff. But it's not real love, because actually we're wanting the other person to please my senses. It's not that our goal is to please the other person's senses, but rather that we're thinking that if I please them, then they're going to please me. So that's the underlying motivation there, that I'll try to gratify their senses, and in return they'll please my senses. So ultimately it's all selfish, sense gratification generally. Of course, you can have spiritual relationships, and that's completely different. Like Prabhupada said, I came to America I came to the West not to take anything from America, not to take anything from the West, but I came to give them what they have forgotten, which is Krishna consciousness, which is their relationship with Krishna, how to love Krishna. So his objective to leave India and go to the West wasn't to get anything from America, money or reputation or power or anything like that, but he just wanted to serve them and make them happy. He just wanted to make them happy. So that's a transcendental kind of relationship. And that's not going to cause us entanglement or suffering. But if it is based on just our own personal sense gratification, then yes, generally those kind of relationships will cause us suffering. So a sense object could be food, a sense object could be a car, it could be money, it could be a woman from a man's point of view, it could be a man, or it could, it can be, same sex also, or whatever. It could be a dog, could be a cat, could be these are all objects, could be a house. They're all objects for the senses, like that. But if we can't give up having a connection with sense objects, like we can't give up connection with food, we can't give up a connection with a house, we can't give up money or so forth. We need these things for the body to survive. But we just want to change the context by, instead of putting myself in the center of all of those things, to put Krishna in the center. That this is Krishna's money, Krishna's house, Krishna's woman, Krishna's children, and Krishna's business, and Krishna's body, and all that. And then that won't have an entangling effect. It'll have a purifying effect. And that's really natural, and that makes it so easy. Everyone can adopt that kind of lifestyle. Whereas if you tell people, oh, you have to give up your house, give up your money, give up your job, give up everything, go and live in the forest and practice yoga, then who's going to be able to do that? What do you reckon, Bob? You ready to leave everything?
It'd be very difficult, wouldn't it?
Yeah, it'd be very difficult. Be very difficult. So we don't have to do that. We can with the